In this lesson, we're going to learn how to add, subtract, multiply polynomials. First of all, we're going to start with adding polynomials. And this can be very easy as long as you look at the like terms. So if we look here, we have 3 x to the thirds plus another x to the third. So 3 plus 1 will give us 4. X to the thirds. And then we work our way down with the exponents. So now we go to the 2's. So the squareds, we have 2 of them plus a negative 10. And 2 minus 10 is negative 8. X squareds. Now we work with the exponent of a 1, which is right here. So we have negative 1 plus none. So we just have negative 1x, and last we have negative 7 plus 8, which is positive 1. So here is our final polynomial in the end. Here's another example of how to do this when you're adding, is you can line it up one on top of the other. So we have 2x to the third minus 4x squared plus 5. And if we line the next one up underneath, we have negative x squared. But notice we have negative 3x, and I don't have a spot for that. So I'm going to erase this plus 5 and fill in just a 0x on top so I can fill in down below the negative 3x underneath. We have plus 5, and we have plus 1 underneath of that. So if we add these total, we have 2x to the thirds. We have negative 4 plus a negative 1. Remember, there's a 1 here, which would be negative 5x squared. 0 plus a negative 3 is just negative 3. And 5 plus 1 is 6. So here's our overall polynomial. When we subtract polynomials, it's a little different just because you have to be careful with this negative part. So what I like to do is I like to go through and change the sign of every single one of these and make it an addition problem. So when I do that, I'm going to, if this is a positive 2, it now becomes negative 2. So we're going to add negative 2x to the third instead. If this is a positive, it now becomes negative. That's a negative, so now becomes positive. And positive 1 now becomes negative 1. And then we can cross this off. So now we have 8 of these minus 2 of these, which will give us 6x to the thirds. And then we work our way down. We have negative 3x squared minus or plus a negative 6x squared, which is negative 9x squared. Then we have negative 2x plus x, which is negative x, and 9 plus a negative 1, which is plus 8. So here is our overall polynomial. And again, you can, once you set this up to be a positive and change the signs, you can then put this underneath if you choose to do it that way. Here's another one. So again, we have a minus sign. We're going to change that to plus and make all of these signs different. So negative 3x squared, positive 4x, and negative 3. And I'm going to cross that out so I don't get confused. And I'm going to start with the highest exponent. I have 1x squared plus a negative 3x squared. So that's going to give me negative 2x squared. If you notice, you go to the next exponent, which would be a 1. We don't have 1 here. So we do 0 plus 4. So we have plus 4x. So we got that one taken care of. And now we go to the did the whole numbers, 1 plus a negative 3 is negative 2. And this is our final polynomial. Now we're going to multiply some of these polynomials together, and the best way to do this is just distributive property. If you want to use colored markers to help you figure out which ones you already did, that's fine. So we have negative x squared times x. That's going to give us a negative x to the third. And then we have negative x squared times negative 3, and that will give us a positive 3x squared. Okay, moving on to the next term, we have 2x times x, which will give us 2x squared. 2x times negative 3 will give us negative 6x. And then the last one, we have 4 times x, which is 4x. And 4 times negative 3, which is negative 12. Now that you have all of that multiplied out, we then have to go through and add our like terms, which we've already learned how to do. So I'm noticing here that I only have one of these. So negative 1x to the third plus nothing else is just negative x to the third. We have 3 plus 2 x squared, so it's 5x squared. We have negative 4 plus 4, which is negative 2x. And then we have this negative 12 at the end. And now we have a simplified polynomial that we multiplied out, added the like terms. Here's another one where you might have 3 binomials being multiplied together. And my suggestion to you is to take the first 2. And multiply them however you want. You can do the box method, or you can do the FOIL method. I'm going to use the FOIL method. So we have x times x, which is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. Negative 5x. And negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Now we combine our like terms in just this polynomial here. So we have plus 1 minus 5, so negative 4x. And then we have negative 5 at the end. So here is the final answer for just those 2. But we still have this polynomial or binomial to multiply it by. So if we put parentheses around here, and we put x plus 3, we now go through and do the same exact thing. So we have x squared times x, which is x to the third. X squared times 3, which is 3x squared. Now we move on. Negative 4x times x is negative 4x squared. Negative 4x times 3 is negative 12x. And the last one, we have negative 5 times x, which is negative 5x. And negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. The last step you need to do is go through and add your like terms again. We have only one x to the third. We have 3 minus 4, which is going to give us a negative x squared. We have negative 12 minus 5, which is going to give us a negative 17x. And then we have negative 15. So overall, when you multiply 3 binomials together, this is your total answer. Now, some of you may be going on to trig and pre-calc, and if you do, there are some shortcuts that you can memorize on your own for those courses. And on page 105 in the blue box, those are some ways for you to get around the long process of multiplying polynomials out. even if you do not plan on going to a pre-calc or trig course next year, this is always good to know so that your homework doesn't take as long as it would if you had to do the long process. So I suggest that you write these down, and I will let you use them this year on the quizzes and tests so you can get familiar with them and know how to use them. And as you use them and look at them several times, you start to memorize it anyway. Next year, just keep in mind, depending on what you have for a math class, you may have to start memorizing them on your own.